And Jesus said to the crowd, take care, be on your guard against all kinds of, guess what? Greed. That's what I want to talk about this morning. For one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions. Take care against greed. And so this morning I want to share some truths that on a subject that we all struggle with. We get greedy, and it's just almost part of human nature. And I have titled my teaching this morning, very interesting, would you rather be happy or would you rather be content? Would you rather be happy or content? A greedy person is never content. So let's talk about greed. The 10th commandment, if you read Exodus chapter 20 from verse 1 to 17, it lists the 10 commandments. And verse 17 lists the 10th of the 10 commandments. Guess what the 10th commandment is? It's against greed. It says, you shall not covet. You shall not covet each other's goods, wives, or possessions. You shall not covet. God is against greed. Yet, even though the 10th commandment says you shall not covet, we know in all reality that, including this speaker this morning, that this is one area we all struggle with. Why do we struggle with this particular commandment? Is because we struggle with contentment. And so let's talk about contentment. But before we talk about contentment, let's look at that 10th commandment, covetousness. What is covetousness? So the ordinary English dictionary defines covetousness as, please listen, an excessive desire. So mark the word, excessive. Not just a desire, but excessive. And you know when something is excessive, it's not good. An excessive desire or inordinate craving. And what is the another word for inordinate? Something beyond normal limits. Craving for something that belongs to another person. Tell me you haven't broken this commandment before. Even if you are age 6, you probably would have. And this craving can leave you with negative emotions, such as, you know where I'm going, envy, jealousy, gossip, resentment. Where do you think they all come from? It's because you want to be like the other person and you're not content with who you are. The story of man. And this is in our DNA because from our first parents, we saw that. They had everything in the garden. But it's the one thing they could not have that they lusted after. That's the story of our lives. The story of our lives is we always lust after the one thing we do not have. And we do not look at the many things that we have. Well, the biblical definition of covetousness, listen to how the Bible defines it. It says it's an insatiable. And you know when something is insatiable means you can never be satisfied with it. An insatiable desire to find fulfillment, meaning and purpose of life in things instead of in God. Did you hear that? Insatiable desire to find fulfillment, happiness, joy in the things, in possessions, rather than in God. That's what covetousness is. And no wonder scripture says, you shall not covet. But despite knowing that it's wrong to covet, what do? We all struggle with that desire. That's where greed comes from. That's where envy comes from. That's where jealousy comes from. And the root of that is when you find yourself gossiping about somebody, just look at the root of that gossip. You actually want to be like them, and you are envious. You don't gossip about someone you feel you are more than. It's always someone you feel is more than you. And that comes from a lack of contentment with what you have, because you're trying to find joy in things rather than finding joy in God. So how can we overcome this deadly sin? How? How can we overcome it? How can we get to a point where this is not one of the sins that we confess? This is not one of the sins that fills us with guilt. And you say, I've done it again. I've done it again. And I want to walk you through some very simple steps this morning, obviously from psychology, from science, but rooted in scriptures. Steps, simple steps that we can take as we struggle with lack of contentment and envy. Step number 1. If you want to overcome a feeling of lack or envy or jealousy over someone, or a feeling of lack of contentment, the first thing you need to do, or I'll need to do, is to identify the object or the people that I typically covet. And why is it important to identify the object or the people that I want, the things that I want? This is the reason. Because your internal desires always attaches themselves to specific things. You discover that even as I speak now, you don't covet everything. It's not everything you lust after. There are particular things and objects that you find yourself, and we're going to get into that you find yourself lusting after all the time. Maybe there's a particular person you have a desire to be in a relationship with. You wish, 10 years married, but you look at that man in the church, if I was married to that one, life would be different. Or you have your job, 5 years working at this job, if only I work in where the Jones work, life would be different. Maybe there's a specific object, so that's a person. Maybe there's a specific object you find yourself lusting for. And when we talk about objects, the greatest one is the smartphone, technology, especially for us men. If there's anything we covet most in life as men, is our toys. We're so attached to them that toys become an idol that we worship as men. And these toys come in different forms. Or maybe you're someone who struggles with smoking, and cigarette becomes the thing that you covet. Or alcohol becomes the thing that you covet. It's the object that you cannot resist. When you see it, you just fall flat. And when you see someone have it, you become very envious. So whatever that object or person is, the first step to overcoming covetousness is to begin to identify what it is. If you don't identify a rotten thing in your life, how can you deal with it? And so when you have identified it, what's the next thing to do? Because identifying is not the healing itself. The next thing to do is to go to the next step, which is the hardest, to ask the question, why do I covet that particular person or this particular object? Why do I have a weakness to this particular kind of food? Maybe you're told to abstain from sugar, and your eyes can't see ice cream twice. Maybe you're told to abstain from certain kind of food, but you just can't resist. And you're struggling to just put it away and resist and not have it. But the more you struggle, the more you fall. Well, the second step is to ask the why. Why that object and not something else? Why that person and not another person? There is a reason. There's a reason because that person holds a particular attraction to you, or that thing holds a particular attraction to you. The why helps you to identify the deepest desire that motivates your lust. So, behind every lust for anything, whether for a person or for an object, there is a motivation. And that motivation is driven by the why. And what could the why be? I'll give you an example of the why. What cravings in your life are you trying to satisfy? Or what insecurity is driving you? Or what feeling in your life are you trying to numb with that object that you're lusting after? Let's use alcohol, for example. Someone who struggles with alcohol and says the best way to overcome alcohol is just to put it away. Well, good luck with that. You need to go further to ask, what is the reason why I have a weakness towards alcohol? The reason likely will be that there is a feeling in you that you're trying to numb, something that causes anxiety in you, and you feel the best way to numb that feeling is to take the next bottle or the next drink. If you don't identify that feeling or that craving, the reason for it, it's impossible to overcome it. Let's use gadgets, for example, because that's something that we all lost after, right? Or exotic vacations. You just need to go through your Facebook page and then you start being envious of the next person because they are posting these wonderful pictures of them being in Mexico when it's plus 40 degrees, minus 40 degrees in Saskatchewan. Why are you lusting after that vacation? Maybe because having that gadget or going on that vacation promises you a certain level of social approval. So you go to that Mexico, you take all the beautiful pictures, the best pictures, and you post it. And what do you get? Many likes. Like what happened to me yesterday. I post my homily, and I check at the end of the week, if I'm lucky, 35, 40 people have either liked it or gone through 2 minutes of 18 minutes of homily. But I just posted a picture yesterday of me and Jared Bednar in front of the altar trying to draft me into NHL, and within half an hour, 263 people had looked at the picture. They were lusting after me, trying to get what I have. And you know what? I know a parishioner who is sitting here right now. I won't call his name. I knew he would be lusting after this picture, but I also knew he was not active. He's not active on Facebook. So I sent him the picture via text. And guess what? In minutes, 2 minutes, he responded, "What is he doing in the church?" And I didn't even put the name. I just sent a picture without a comment. And wow, the chats went back and forth, and the guy is here in church. He knows I'm talking about him. And why did I post that picture? Social approval. Yeah. Do I even know what hockey is? How much more of being drafted by a professional? I don't even know the rules of hockey. But I'm sure some people were looking yesterday. Only God knows how many times they looked at that picture. Oh, how lucky is he? Wow. He gets to stand with Jared. By the way, I didn't only stand with him. I had lunch with him yesterday. I spent about 2.5 hours with him yesterday. So if you're dying of jealousy, right now I can do a funeral if you die in this church. Even Isaiah is jealous of me because he thinks I should learn how to play hockey. And here am I, dining with professional pros, VIPs, and Isaiah has not even met them yet. Isaiah is jealous, even though he's serving Mass this morning. What is the thing that drives your craving? If you don't know what drives your craving, you can't overcome it. What feeling are you trying to numb in your life? What is the voice you want to silence? And you feel that next bottle or that relationship with that person is going to help you forget your misery. Then step number 3, 1, remember, identify who that person is or the object is. 2, what is the reason why you have attraction to that person or to that object? 3 is the third thing. That's the biggest one. Bring it to Jesus. Because on our own, we can't overcome greed, envy, and jealousy. We can't. It's something we need to ask for help for. And how do we bring it to Jesus? When we honestly sit down and ask ourselves, how come I give a place of prominence to someone in my life or to an object in my life, a prominence that only God deserves. And it's so true. Look at the things that occupy your mind, the objects that occupy your mind in a day. You think about them 1,000,000 times. How many times do you think about God? If he's lucky, you probably think about him Saturday because you get to come to church on Sunday. So where's our priority here? We're driven by these things we lust after, thinking that these things will give us fulfillment. And yet, every day we are reminded that true fulfillment only comes when we know Jesus. And once we bring it to Jesus, guess what happens? Then we get rid of that thing we covet. Then there is now room to put Jesus back at the center of our lives. If you're struggling with putting Jesus at the center of your life, look at what is at the center of your life. Two things cannot be at the center of your life. If hockey is at the center of your life, Jesus cannot be there. Even if your family is at the center of your life, Jesus cannot be there. And Jesus should not compete with your family because he gave you the gifts, right, of your children, of your spouse. The problem with man, including this one, is we tend to worship the gift that we are given, but we don't worship the giver of the gift. He didn't give us gifts to be worshipped. He gave us gifts to be appreciated. But the worship goes to the one who gives us the gift. I'd like to end this long homily by asking the question, what is contentment? What does it mean to be contented in life? Does it mean a fat bank account? This is what many people will tell you. Does it mean being able to afford the best holiday? Does it even mean having a peaceful and joyful family? That's what some people will say to you. No, this is what contentment means. Contentment means to enjoy freedom from the desire for created things. This is the definition and the meaning of contentment. You have freedom, the freedom or the desire to worship created things in order to worship God. And so why do we need this freedom? Because created things are insatiable, right? I was looking forward to coming to baptism yesterday. Yvonne thought I was just coming to baptism because I was going to baptize our grandkid. That's not the only reason. One of my motivations without telling her was I was coming to meet Yvonne's son and take a picture, right? But now that I took the picture, and so what? You crave to go to Mexico on an exotic holiday. There will be an end to it, and so what? You crave for that sugar, you have it, and so what? Always ask yourself, and so what? Nothing fills us except God. To be content is to come to a place, and this is the last thing I will say, and this is very important. To be content is to come to a place where you can truly say from the depth of your heart that Jesus is enough for me. Jesus is enough. That is contentment. When we realize that when we have Jesus, we have everything.